Have you ever noticed that some breakups feel strangely unfinished? You're sitting there, staring at your phone, replaying the last conversation again and again. Not because you want to torture yourself, but because something about it just didn't feel right. The room was silent after they walked away. But inside you, everything was loud. The heartbeat, the confusion, the questions you didn't ask, the words you wanted to say but couldn't. Maybe you remember the way they looked at you before leaving. Not with the coldness of someone who's done, but with the sadness of someone who's overwhelmed and scared and trying to protect themselves from something they still feel. Because there are breakups that close a door with certainty, and then there are breakups that feel like a door pushed half shut by the wind. Not locked, not sealed, just resting there, waiting for someone to gently pull it open again. Maybe you've felt that. Maybe after everything fell apart, you sensed something strange, a thread still connecting you, a tension that didn't snap. You try to distract yourself, but the mind doesn't cooperate. The heart doesn't cooperate. It keeps replaying small details. The way they hesitated, the way their voice cracked, the way they said, "I need time," not, "I'm done." And deep down, in a place you don't like to admit exists, you feel like this story isn't over. Not yet. And here's the truth that most people never say out loud. Breakups rarely end the moment someone says, "It's over." They end slowly in layers, in decisions, in distance, in silence. But sometimes the breakup isn't an ending. Sometimes it's a reaction, a cry for space, a collapse under pressure, a moment of fear disguised as certainty. And sometimes, the breakup is nothing more than a pause in a story that still has chapters left to be written. Today, we're going to talk about exactly that. We're going to explore 7 signs that your breakup is not permanent, that the connection is still alive, and that your ex may not be as gone as you think. But before we begin, I want you to breathe for a moment. Set aside the fear. Set aside the overthinking. Just listen, because the signs you're about to hear may reveal something you've felt all along, but didn't have words for. Let's begin. Sign 1. The breakup was emotional, not rational. Before we talk about anything else, you need to understand the difference between a breakup made from clarity and a breakup made from pain. Because not all breakups come from a place of decision. Some come from a place of collapse. Picture this moment. 2 people standing in front of each other, tired, overwhelmed, carrying weeks, maybe months, of misunderstandings, tension, frustration, silent fears. They're not thinking clearly. They're not breathing evenly. Their hearts are loud and their minds are drowning. And then one of them says it. "I can't do this anymore." Their voice cracks just a little. Not enough for you to call it crying, but enough for your heart to notice. Their hands shake. Their eyes dart away. They swallow hard, trying to seem certain. But certainty isn't there. Because this breakup isn't a decision. It's an explosion. It's not the result of reflection. It's the result of overwhelm. Let me ask you something. Did they say things that didn't match their behavior from days before? Did their words feel rushed, pressured, emotional? Did their face look hurt rather than cold? Did their body language say, "I'm scared," even while their words said, "I'm done"? If so, that wasn't a rational breakup. It was an emotional one, and emotional breakups have a very predictable life cycle. They hit fast, they hurt deep, they feel extreme, and they almost always lead to regret. Because emotional breakups don't come from truth, they come from exhaustion. Now imagine this. Your ex had been holding everything inside. All the fears, the doubts, the pressure. They didn't communicate, so it built up, little by little, like a balloon being filled too much, until one tiny moment makes it pop. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe it was a fight. Maybe it was something small that normally wouldn't matter. But in that moment, everything inside them broke loose. And saying, "It's over," wasn't a calm conclusion. It was emotional survival. People who make rational breakups look different. They're calm. They have reasons. They speak clearly. They've thought about it. They're steady. But emotional breakups, they're impulsive, chaotic, messy, full of contradictions. One minute they say, "I'm done." And the next minute they whisper, "I don't want to hurt you." One moment they say, "I don't know what I feel." And in the same breath they add, "I still care about you." A rational breakup is a closed door. An emotional breakup is a door slammed by the wind. Let me paint you a scene. You're sitting on the edge of your bed, hours after the breakup, still hearing their voice in your mind. Not the words, but the tone. That trembling, that sadness, that uncertainty. And you know something isn't right, because people who are truly done don't cry. They don't hesitate. They don't look away as if looking at you hurts. They don't pause between sentences, searching for words they don't fully believe. People who are truly done have peace. Your ex didn't. Your ex had panic, confusion, emotion, a storm inside. And storms don't last, they pass. And after a storm, people think clearly again. That's when regret walks in. That's when clarity appears. That's when the heart finally whispers what it couldn't say before. I didn't want to lose them. I just didn't know how to express myself. So if your breakup felt rushed, chaotic, tearful, conflicted, illogical, or impulsive, if your ex seemed hurt instead of finished, then the breakup came from emotion, not reason. And emotional breakups don't mean goodbye. They mean something needs to be healed, understood, processed. They mean the story isn't over. It's just paused in the middle of a storm. Sign 2. Your ex did not completely cut contact. One of the clearest signs that a breakup isn't truly final is hidden in the silence. Or rather, in the lack of it. Because when someone genuinely wants to remove you from their life, they know exactly what to do. They cut the cord cleanly. They unfollow. They stop watching. They stop answering. They disappear with intention. There is no hesitation, no softness, no lingering shadow of attachment. But when someone can't do that, when your ex stays in your orbit even after the breakup, that speaks louder than any romantic confession ever could. Let's slow down and look closely, because sometimes these signs are small, subtle, easy to overlook, but they reveal everything. The contact that means nothing, but means everything. Maybe your ex sends a message that feels casual, almost dull. How have you been? Are you okay? Did you get home safe? On the surface, it seems simple. But beneath the words lies something much heavier. They're checking in because the emotional bond hasn't died. People don't check on people they've emotionally detached from. Maybe they comment on a post. Maybe they like a picture. Maybe they view every story you upload within minutes. Maybe they respond faster than expected to your messages. Not in a romantic way, but in a way that feels invested. It's not enough to call it reconciliation, but it's too much to call it indifference. That middle ground, that emotional gray area, is where unfinished stories live. The invisible thread. Visible in small actions. There's a moment people rarely talk about. The first time you post something after the breakup. A photo, a quote, a story, a joke, a song lyric, and you notice it. Your ex watches it. Maybe immediately. Maybe quietly. Maybe repeatedly. And suddenly you realize you're still a part of their attention. This isn't an accident. This isn't boredom. This isn't just scrolling. This is someone who cannot look away. Because if your ex truly wanted distance, your life wouldn't still be on their screen. They wouldn't be curious. They wouldn't be checking in. They wouldn't be hovering in silence. Their attention is a string connecting you. Thin, yes, but unbroken. The contact patterns that reveal feelings. Let's talk about patterns. Human emotions leak through patterns. Maybe your ex texts you, "Happy birthday," at midnight. Maybe they send a random meme that only the two of you would understand. Maybe they check on your family. Maybe they send something nostalgic. A picture of a place you used to go. A memory you shared. A song you once danced to. People don't revisit nostalgia with people they're done with. And then there's the classic one. One so common it almost feels scripted. Your ex messages you late at night. Not drunk. Not reckless. Just vulnerable. Those messages are not accidental. Those messages come from a heart that misses, even if the mind is afraid to admit it. The contact that didn't mean to leave behind. Here's another detail people underestimate. Your ex didn't block you. Do you know how easy it is to block someone? One button, 1 second, one decision. But they didn't, even if you fought. Even if emotions were high. Even if things were said that shouldn't have been said. If your ex truly wanted distance, they would make it impossible for you to reach them. But they didn't. And that choice, to keep the door unlocked, is not meaningless. It's permission. It's hesitation. It's emotional attachment quietly breathing under the surface. The accidentally contact that isn't really accidental. Maybe your ex accidentally liked an old photo. Maybe they viewed a video from 2 years ago. Maybe they appeared on your recent viewers list in a place they shouldn't even be. Accidents happen, but they don't keep happening with the same person. Those slip-ups often reveal something deeper. Your ex is revisiting memories. Your ex is scrolling through your life. Your ex is reminiscing. People move forward by looking ahead. People who are stuck in the past, they look back. And looking back at you, that isn't closure, it's longing. Why this sign is so powerful? Because staying connected takes effort. Watching your stories takes intention. Replying takes intention. Checking in takes intention. Not blocking you takes intention. Reaching out takes intention. Every tiny piece of contact is a quiet confession. I'm not ready to let go. I still care. I'm confused. I miss something about us. I'm not done with this chapter. Even the smallest interaction is like a thread your ex refuses to cut. Distance is easy. Silence is easy. Disappearing is easy. But staying, even in small ways, is something only a person with lingering feelings does. So if your ex stayed in your life, if they didn't cut contact completely, if they linger around your world even in subtle ways, there's a reason. They're still attached. And a person still attached is a person who may not be gone, just lost. Sign 3. They still care about your life. There's a sign that almost always goes unnoticed, but when it shows up, it speaks louder than any message or confession. And it's this: your ex still cares about your life. And I don't just mean they ask, "How are you?" No, I'm talking about something deeper, something you can feel. It's when you realize they're still tuned into your small changes. When they remember details you didn't even know you had told them. When they mention things they could only know if, somehow, they're still watching from afar. Maybe your friends tell you, "Hey, they asked if you solved that issue at work." Or you get a random message that says, "I saw your concert photo. How was it?" And you catch yourself thinking, why do they care? Aren't we supposed to be done? But that's the point. If they truly felt nothing, there would be no curiosity, no interest, no emotional spark. When someone has really moved on, they leave behind your stories, your struggles, your dreams, and your victories. But when someone keeps asking, keeps watching, keeps celebrating your wins or worrying about your setbacks, it means that emotionally, they haven't fully walked away. Sometimes love doesn't disappear. It just goes quiet, waiting for a safe moment to speak again. And that constant care, that subtle attention, is one of the clearest signs that what you had wasn't ordinary. Because when a heart truly closes a door, it doesn't keep peeking through the cracks. If your ex still cares about your life, maybe what they feel for you isn't over. Maybe they're just waiting for the right moment to step back into your story. Sign 4. They can't move on, or they try but fall. There's something deeply telling when your ex can't connect with anyone new. Maybe they try dating again. A few dates, a few conversations, a few attempts to move forward, but something's off. They compare. They detach. They come home and feel nothing. Or perhaps they don't try dating at all. They stay single, quiet, guarded. Either one means the same thing. The emotional space you occupied is still full. You cannot replace someone you still love. You cannot move forward with a heart still tied to the past. Sometimes the comparison hits them hard. They realize the world doesn't replicate what they had with you. Connections aren't transferable. Chemistry doesn't duplicate. And slowly, they begin to understand what they lost. That's when people come back. Not because they're lonely, but because the connection mattered more than they realized. Sign 5. The emotional tension is still there. There is one sign almost no one talks about, but it reveals everything. It's not whether they text you. It's not whether they say they miss you. It's not even whether they admit they still care. It's the emotional tension. Because when a relationship truly ends, when two people are genuinely done, the energy disappears, the intensity fades. Nothing is triggered anymore. There's no reaction, no charge in the air, just real silence, real calm, indifference. But when emotional tension is still alive, you feel it. You feel it in the way they look at you, in the awkward pauses, in conversations that start casually and suddenly feel heavy. Maybe you don't talk often, but when you do, something shifts inside both of you. Maybe you argue about small, meaningless things. Maybe there's sarcasm. passive-aggressive comments, maybe even jealousy. That's not random conflict. That's unresolved emotion. Because here's the truth. No one gets emotional over someone they've already let go of. No one feels tension with someone who no longer matters. Emotional tension exists when you still affect each other, you still trigger reactions, there's still a bond that hasn't died. Sometimes that tension hides behind distance. Sometimes behind coldness. Sometimes behind anger. But underneath all of it, something is still alive. If your ex becomes defensive around you, if their tone changes when you show up, if they try to prove they're fine, but clearly aren't, that's emotional tension. It's the internal battle between what they feel and what they think they should feel, between pride and attachment, between letting go and not being able to. And this is important. Emotional tension cannot be faked. It's not intentional. It's not calculated. It just happens. It's emotion leaking through. It's the nervous system reacting. And as long as that tension exists, the story isn't over. Maybe they don't know how to come back. Maybe they're not ready. Maybe fear is louder than desire. But the connection is still active. The door isn't wide open, but it's not locked either. It's a pause, an unfinished sentence. And when emotional tension is still alive, when something is still felt, a reunion isn't a fantasy. It's a real possibility. Sign 6, they come close. Then pull away, the push-pull dance. This is one of the most confusing signs of all. And also, one of the most revealing. They come close. They open up. They show warmth. They make you feel like maybe, just maybe, they're coming back. And then, they pull away. Silence. Distance. Coldness. And you're left wondering, what just happened? This isn't random. This isn't manipulation. And it's definitely not indifference. This is the push-pull dance. It happens when someone still feels deeply, but is terrified of what those feelings mean. When they miss you, but are afraid of getting hurt again. When they want the connection, but don't trust themselves to handle it, so they move closer, until the emotions become too real. And then fear takes over. They pull back not because they don't care, but because they care too much. Think about it. If they were done, they wouldn't come close at all. There would be no late-night messages. No emotional conversations. No moments of vulnerability. They wouldn't reopen the door, just to slam it shut again. The push-pull happens when two forces collide. Desire vs fear. Attachment vs self-protection. Love vs unresolved pain. One moment they're warm, open, present. The next, they disappear. And that emotional whiplash hurts. But it also reveals something important. They are not at peace with the breakup. They're fighting themselves. Every time they pull away, it's usually after getting too close. After laughing with you. After reminiscing. After feeling that familiar connection. Their nervous system panics. Their walls go back up. And here's the key insight. People don't run from something that doesn't matter. They only retreat from what still has power over them. The push-pull dance is exhausting, but it means the bond is still alive, not stable, not healed, but alive. They haven't chosen a direction yet. They're standing between, letting go completely or risking their heart again. And until that internal battle is resolved, they'll keep moving closer, then pulling away. This sign doesn't mean you should chase. It doesn't mean you should beg. It means space plus emotional safety is what's needed. Because when fear fades and safety grows, the push-pull stops, and what remains is a clear choice. Sign 7. The real change, the ultimate sign. And this is the sign no one wants to hear. But everyone feels when it happens. Because when a breakup is now permanent, something changes. And it's not what you think. It's not the texts. It's not the "I miss you." It's not the late night calls. It's this. They're no longer the same person who caused the breakup. Here's the hard truth. If there's no real change, there is no real comeback. Just the same story, with the same ending. But when the change is real, you notice it without being told. Suddenly. The same arguments don't happen. The ego is quieter. They don't run when things get uncomfortable. And the craziest part, they're not trying to impress you. Because real change doesn't perform, it just exists. The energy feels different now. Not intense, not anxious, clear. Conversations don't drain you. There are no games, no manipulation. Just two people who finally understand what they broke. And here's the part that hits hardest. Sometimes, the biggest change doesn't happen in them. It happens in you. And when you truly change, They feel it. The dynamic breaks. The old version of the relationship can't survive. So either they come back, but this time healthy, or they don't, and you realize you don't need them to. And that's the exact moment you take your power back, because when real change happens, it doesn't matter if they return or not. You win either way. And if this sign is showing up, pay attention, because relationships that come back after real change don't come back to play. So after all the signs, the confusion, the silence, the tension, the push and pull, here's what actually matters. It's not whether they come back tomorrow. It's not whether they text you next week. It's not even whether this relationship continues. What matters is who you become in the process, because breakups don't just end relationships. They reveal truths. They force growth. They strip away illusions. And here's the truth most people miss. Sometimes your ex comes back because the connection was real. Sometimes they don't, because the lesson was. And both can be exactly what you needed. If you spend your energy chasing signs, you stay stuck in fear. But when you focus on healing, clarity, and self-respect, something powerful happens. You stop waiting. You stop guessing. You stop shrinking yourself to be chosen. And that's when everything shifts. Either the relationship returns, but this time from a healthy place, or your life opens up to something even better. Not because you forced it, not because you chased it, but because you became aligned with what you truly deserve. So don't ask, are they coming back? Ask this instead. Am I becoming someone who would never lose themselves again? And if this video resonated with you, give it a like. It really helps the channel reach more people who need to hear this. And let me know in the comments. Which sign did you identify with the most? Because you're not alone in this. No matter what happens next, you win. And that's what actually matters. If this video helped you understand your story more deeply, leave a comment and tell me which sign resonated the most. Thank you for watching.